Okay, we need that. I'm not really going to work very hard here. I'm going to make Thierry and Jacques do all the work. But I have found when I travel a lot in Europe and I bring my European friends here that although everybody speaks English, they don't always understand each other. And so if anybody's having trouble with the translation, you might let us know. Don't sit there and be confused and not understand. Just say, stop, whoa, somebody make the English more clear. And I think that'll make a big difference. This is Daniel Molina. He's the designer and builder of the Extra Pole sled, which we've all had a chance to look at down there this weekend. Thierry Bloch, who wrote a really nice article for Mushing Magazine earlier this year about how sleds turn and corner. And you all know Jacques Philippe. Jacques spoke to us about equipment yesterday, and he's offered to help Daniel with his translation. And Thierry doesn't need help with his translation.
I hope so. Okay, thank you, Kathy. So I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more because all my background goes via technical evolution on the sled. So I was born 43 years ago. In Paris, France. You know where it is? I consider myself as the father of a sled dog sport, and a friend of mine wrote down grandfather of the sled dog sport. And the sled dog sport in France was born in '78. I get married with 2 daughters. This boy is a girl. And I'm involved in the sled dog sport since '78. My parents live on the French Riviera, and I was ski teacher, alpine ski teacher, you call it downhill ski teacher. And my parents called me while I was teaching in a winter sport area in France, and they tell me, oh, there is some guy in the movie festival in Cannes, which were cruising on the Croisette with a huge black Cadillac and a sled on the roof. So, come on and try to see them. So I get down to Cannes during the movie festival in '79. I met the people, the movie crew of Spirit of the Wind. I spent all the week with them. They didn't speak a word of English, or French, sorry. So I served as guiding them a little bit in the town and in the country. And when it was time to leave, they want me to leave me the sled they were using during the movie. And this sled was one of the George Atlas sled. It was a tradition. No, yes, it was a wooden sled for open sprint race. We are in '78. I think it's a very nice and well-built sled. And it's the way we were using it at this moment, you know, with a sea anchor, yeah?
Snow anchor.
No, it's not a sea anchor, a snow anchor with a very long rope here, too long, I think, now. And it's the way we were using it. I was quite happy with this sled because it was a part of the culture of the sled dog sport. George Atlas was a big name for me. And at this moment, I was much involved with Greenland dog team. It's a very old photo. I don't know if you can guess what happened on this photo, but you have dog here, and the sled, and me here. And even at 12 miles per hour, we could have some strange position and some strange attitude. Completely in the inside runners, and at the end of this kind of curve, with only 4 dogs, we were completely stopped. And we have to run to make the team run again when you have side slide like that. Then I worked for the Hewlett-Packard company after teaching the ski, but it was a bad idea because 1 year later, it's a good company to work for. But 1 year later, I have a wreck, an accident while going to my job, and I lose the right leg. And at this moment, I want to be back on the sled as soon as possible. It happened in summer, and I was on summer 86, and I was on the sled in December 86, so it was a lot of work. And after that, I have to work with my prosthetics technician, I think is the word, I pull it up from the dictionary, to change a bad wooden leg into a thermonuclear carbon fiber high technology leg with dynamic response. So, at this moment, I solved the problem, my walking and my running problems. The goal was to run like a rabbit. And at this moment, I have George's sled. I have almost George's legs. And I only need a George's dog now to replace the Greenland dog. So, I met Terry Martin. I think it was a quite big name. At this moment, it was in '88, he began to think about quitting the sport. He is in Idaho, and he has a lot of Georgia flower line, and I think he made a quite good job in the breeding stuff and racing at this moment. So I met him, I bought him some dogs, and then I was in touch with Jim Welch for translating his book in French, and I made a real copy with same photo and all the thing of Jim Welch's book, and I bought him some dogs too, and it's really truly a pleasure. But I mushed on with this Atlas sled at this moment, and even with faster dogs, we always have this strange for me, for skiers, this strange attitude on the inside ski. We can see some picture like that, or the body is right upon the inside ski, the curve is like that, and for most part of the mushers in Europe who practice the ski, it was not satisfying, you know. It's like that, you have very big side sliding at the end of the curve, and as we are involved in very small teams, 4, 6, perhaps 8 dogs, little open team, but mostly involved in limited categories, it was too much energy lost in this kind of side slide. You have to know that our trails are snappy, hilly, much more than here in Alaska or in the lower 48. And always this attitude right on the inside. If you take the gravity center, the gravity point, I don't know the word.
Gravity point?
Yeah, gravity point is right on the inside ski. And you must know that any mobile in a curve is pushing on the outside wheel if it's a car, outside legs if it's a dog or a horse, and outside ski if it's a skier. The outside ski is driving the curves, is fighting against the centrifugal force. Centrifugal force. And in the sled dog sport, it was completely reversed. With all the curves we are taking are on the inside runner or inside ski. At this moment, I had a good leg. I had quite good dogs. I began to work with Danielle. It was never like that. Danielle is the boss of Extrapole company. It's a small company, 7 employees, $300,000 of chiffre d'affaires, I don't know the word, but
Business.
yeah,
That much business in a year.
business, $300,000, involved mostly in sled, but also in harness and all little gadget and technical stuff. It's located in a small village. It's quite remote for the European way of thinking remote place, but it's a village with house and so on. In the Jura, it's a mountain range, a small mountain range in France. And he was working with the musher up there, and they already asked them for lateral flexibility on the sled. This movement, you take the sled and you push it on the side, and they want the sled to catch the edge, both edge in the same time. Instead of twisting the runner, we want the sled to catch the edge on the both sides the same way. Then everybody is thinking that sled dog sport looks like ski country ski. Same profile of trail, same speed. So my thinking was we must work on the downhill ski techniques. Sorry? That's not good? Ooh. Yeah. A cross-country skiers has only to deal with force he creates himself. It's the strength of his leg, the strength of his arm. In downhill ski and in mushing, we must deal with force we don't create by ourselves. It's the slope of the downhill ski, and it's the power of the dogs for the mushing, and sometimes it's quite difficult to control them. The idea, especially in Europe, was first not to have this huge side slide at the outside of the curve when the trail is very hard and the team quite fast and the curve quite sharp. Moreover, some part of the trail in Europe are not flat. When you're on your sled like that, you have some part of the trail which are like that. And we want the sled to cut across the slope without side sliding in the bottom of the trail. And so we worked on this aspect. And the difference between a cross-country ski and a downhill ski is quite important. If you take a cross-country ski, you know now the ski has a camber, which is, to explain you, if you put it without any weight on it on a flat surface, it doesn't stick. Why? If you take a flat runner or a flat ski, if you weight on it, with your weight in the middle, it will be like a barrel, like that. With a pivoting point, like that, it's impossible to control anything about direction and so on. And it's a high pressure point on the snow, which prevents the runner from gliding well and smoothly. If you take a runner or a ski like that, and if you weight in the middle with your weight, it will be flat, and at this moment you have a good glide, because all the pressure is on all the length of the runner, and also it keeps the track straight very easily, and you don't have something, a snapping thing like that. So, downhill ski and cross-country ski has a camber, but the force you need to put it flat on the snow or on a flat surface is not the same. Now, the cross-country ski, you know, the technique is skating path. That is to say, like roller, you go from one ski to the other, and to put it flat on the snow, you must roughly the weight of somebody. That is to say, 100 to 120 pounds, or it must be fine-tuned with the weight of the skier. That is to say, if you are weighting much, you must take a stiffer ski, and if you are weighting less, you must move for a softer ski. The other thing is, both the side of the cross-country ski are parallel. The cross-country skiers need to glide and not to spend too much energy for moving. So he needs a gliding machine. He don't need to turn very, very good, because when the trail is turning on the cross-country trail, he is using the side step technique. Well, that is to say, if I am on ski, I have a curve on the left, I make some lateral moving of the ski like that, I bring the other, and so on, until I am in the right direction. It's side steps. So they don't need a cornering machine, but they need a very gliding machine, and in this case you need parallel side skis or runner. I don't have downhill skis there, but the pressure to put it flat is very low, because the goal of a downhill ski is the cornering ability. We want something, we want a tool for achieving nice curves without side sliding and in controlling the slope and so on, the speed. We need a good gliding machine, but not so much. So in that case, we are using, you know, if you have a stiffer ski, a softer ski, and if you press on it, I don't think I can with this one, but with something softer, if I press on it in the middle where my ski boots is, it is drawing a curve. You know, here, like a hawk. But if you take a downhill ski with parallel-sided downhill ski, even if you put your weight in the middle, this can't, it's impossible to turn with things like that. I'm going to show it. So you need less weight for bending the skis, that is explaining the 20 to 30 pounds, for having a shape like a barrel in the curve. Now we need something else for a downhill ski to turn. We need what we call tie the gap in French. It's wasted side. That is to say, the runner of the ski is larger at the spatula, larger at the heel, and narrow under your foot. Je sais pas si ça.
Sur le mur ça marche pas, mais tu
ça
peux
marche,
montrer, non, mais tu peux montrer le rayon de courbure qui s'inscrit. Fais-le contre le mur directement.
If I try, so here is a ski of a runner. One side is cross-country type, or most of Sleddog type, dog sled type, sorry. The other is downhill ski type. If I put it on the straight side, and if I try to have a curve like that, I must make it side-side. It's impossible to turn without side sliding if you have a straight side. If I take it the other side, I press with the weight of my body and I turn without having a turning movement of my wrist. You can try it if you on the carpet. It works very good. Like that, if I push it, I go straight. Like that, if I push it, I go round without side sliding. You can test. You can try it. Demo. So with Daniel, we decide to try to take these techniques on the dog sled runner. So on these figures, you have a sled with a camber runner and a waist-to oh, I have some problem with that. Waist side. Daniel thinks we must have, we need a grid pressure of 70 pounds, quite grid, just in between the ski, the cross-country ski and the downhill ski, to push it back, to push it flat on the ground. The reason of that is it's roughly your weight divided by 2. Because if you want to glide and to preserve gliding quality of your sled on a straight line, on a straight trail, you take your weight of your body and you put it on the both runners and you stay like that. You try to stay in the middle of your runner and you stay like that. You have less pressure on all the length of your runner and it's gliding very much. Your waxing is efficient. I think about waxing we have some good knowledge too.
Il y a un truc qui manque dans le schéma, c'est pour un mocher ou un skieur de 165 livres.
Yeah. All these figures are for skiers or a musher weighing 165 pounds. So you take your weight, you divide it by 2 and you put half of your weight on the right runner and half of your weight on the other runner. And like this, the pressure is on, I think it's 8 feet, 8 feet long, a little bit less if you take off the spatula. 6 feet long on one side, 6 feet long on the other side. Your weight is on 12 feet long surface. It's low pressure, low impact, and the gliding quality is very good. So this figure are showing you how we can turn with cross-country ski, which is turn side step here, and a good alpine ski. And with a good skier, he can do perfect curves. You know, the snowboard is a big success. And I think one of the reasons of the success of the snowboard is because it's easier to have curve without side sliding. It's easier than with downhill ski. If you want to take a curve with downhill ski without side sliding, you need much knowledge, much practice, and it's easier to have it with a snowboard. And I think the feeling is very good when you are on a curve and you drive it without side sliding. It's very nice feeling, and I think it was one of the key of the success of this new sport on the ski. If you have any questions, you can stop me. Now we find out too that, you know, if you take your sled, you put something on it, a measure, you pull it on a hard, flat surface. You take something to measure the strength you have to pull it, and it's peanuts. It's nothing. It's almost less than 2 pounds on a hard surface, flat surface. When it's silly, it's quite different.
Ça c'est mesuré sur moi, mes chiens de 180 kg, et ça c'est mesuré sur mon emballage.
We made the measure with Daniel on the sled.
Yeah, that's the weight of one measure. Small size measure.
Yeah, small size measure. It's on pounds. If you want to take this curve, and if you begin to side slide because it's quite fast, it's quite hard on the snow, you begin to side slide like that. You have to fight against the centrifugal force. You have to stay on the trail. Your dogs are taking a natural trajectory in the curves. We measure 506 pounds on the toe line.
Also with Daniel.
Also with Daniel.
Wow.
On arrive à plus du double avec un scooter.
It was with the 6-dog team, and the dogs were waiting. Combien de poids de chiens?
180 kg, c'est...
All the dogs were waiting, 360, were 400 pounds.
400
The
pounds.
weight of the dogs was 400 pounds. The force to keep the sled on the moving toward and on the trail was 506 pounds.
Il y a à l'extérieur de la... Quand le traîneau passe à l'extérieur de cette ligne qui est représentée par l'axe de la ligne de trait, la force centrifuge rentre en ligne de compte très très fort, plus on va à l'extérieur.
You know, for a mobile on the curve, you have a perfect trajectory. It's the perfect trajectory the race car pilots are searching. A trajectory in which all the force are equals roughly 0. If you go out this ideal trajectory, you have to deal with something like the square of something, the weight and the speed, and these figures increase very rapidly, very quickly. We made the same exercise behind a snowmobile. It was derrière a snow machine.
On arrive à ça fait 400 kilos, ça fait presque 1000 pounds.
Behind a snow machine, we arrived at 1,000 pounds on the line.
And going much faster.
No, same speed.
Ce poids...
C'était à la même vitesse, hein?
Ouais.
It was same speed, but we doesn't prevent the side sliding. It was the maximum side sliding, completely outside of the sled, and the sled was almost at the same level that the snow machine.
Provoqué, hein.
And we want to have the maximum sliding.
C'est pendant ce poids, on le trouve pendant un moment très court.
And this force is during a very small and short moment time. You know, it's not always 500 pounds. It's only a short time. But you have 500 pounds at the moment. It explains us why the old timer, like the old Mercer says, you need to have good and very powerful will.
Yeah, that explains it.
Yeah, I can explain it. And I think with small pin, if you prevent the dogs from catching this force, you preserve energy, and I think it's good for the dogs. It's good for you because you will go farther, but it's good for the dogs too. It's incredible, you know, it's incredible. Right?
Si tu es dans les chiffres, c'est une petite... On a mesuré des extrêmes aussi avec 2 traîneaux. Un traîneau très vieux qui a les patins qui sont comme ça, qui remontent.
We measured something with a very old sled with a runner like a barrel-sided skis, like that.
With one pivot point under the...
Yes, with a musher in the middle.
Où toute la concentration du poids se fait ici.
All the weight of the musher was on, let's say, 10 inches.
À 30 à l'heure avec un scooter.
20 miles per hour with a snow machine.
30 km/h.
20 miles.
Ok. C'est 10,8 kg. C'est 23 livres de traction.
23 pounds to make it move.
Et avec un très bon patin
With a good runner.
Qui théoriquement répartit bien le poids.
With all the weight on all the 12-foot area.
Avec la même paire de semelles.
Same sole, same what? No what? Same sole, same musher. We put out the QCR.
On est à,
put it on the other sled.
On mesure 1,7 livres.
We have 1.7 pounds.
C'est fou.
It's 1 to 5.
So with the camber
with the same speed, same musher, same plastic.
1 to 5 pounds with the camber and 23 with the old-fashioned.
Yeah.
C'est pour tirer un musher de 165 livres.
With 165 pounds musher.
Et nous avons recommencé plusieurs fois ces tests parce qu'ils nous paraissent fous.
They
couldn't. Well,
That's with the backer camber? Or
with a rocker runner.
With a rocker?
Yeah.
And then one had a camber.
Like that.
Ça se dit
And the one like this
50
was
degrés,
less
c'est
than 2
combien
pounds.
Ensuite,
non, ça devrait être 2 onces.
So if you go, I think it's something in between. If it's a flat one and you go in the middle, it will be the same thing, the same kind of thing. You will have this bad shape. Yeah.
On essaye d'arriver à répartir le poids d'un musher de 2 onces par centimètre carré.
We try to reach 2 ounces by square centimeter. I don't know how it will be. We translate in ounces, but it's square inch.
1 centimètre, c'est carré, c'est ça.
1 square centimeter is 1. Yes.
About a half a square inch.
Yeah.
No, not half.
No, you're right.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Did you do that same experiment, the lower one there, with the expo sled, where you're getting 506 pound force around the corner with a rocker runner? Did you run that same thing with the extra ball, 8 pounds on that?
You mean we do it? We did it with?
What happens on this curve with a wasp-laced runner with camber?
Okay, we are going to speak about that.
Oh, this is
For the moment, it's with parallel-sided runner.
okay.
A runner like that. So it's very important. It's important when you race, but I think it could be important for recreational musher too, because they don't spend energy on their dogs in rough conditions.
And for the pleasure.
And for the pleasure of driving something, you know, when you are like that, when you are on a sled like that, you are all focused not to fall and not to hit a tree at the outside. And if there is a rock here, you go under the rock. If there is a tree here, you are beginning to play.
Il a parlé des vecteurs qui se bagarrent.
Non.
En gros, ici il y a la direction du traîneau, la position du traîneau qui est là, la direction qui est en rouge et la traction qui est en bleu qui vont dans la même direction. Il n'y a pas de position et de perte de force. Ici, il y a 3 directions très différentes et il y a beaucoup de perte de force et il y a que les chiens qui la donnent.
In brown, you have the position of the sled. In red, the direction of the moving, and in blue, the pulling force. All these 3 things, these 3 arrows goes in the same direction. In this case, you are like a conflict, like a fight.
Et que par exemple, l'angle la position du traîneau par rapport à sa direction, c'est à peu près l'angle qu'on utilise en ski alpin pour freiner quand tu veux t'arrêter. Et on est dans un virage à ce moment-là, c'est assez fou.
Okay, if you consider recreational downhill skiers, they slow down their speed in slide at each curve, and it's this position we have on the sled. It's like the beginners on the two sharp straight slope in downhill ski. He tries to brake at each curve, and it's the same position we have with the sled, but we don't want to brake and to slow down at this moment. If you are on a race, or it's not the goal. And in ski it's quite different because the slope makes you move, but here the dogs are making you move somehow. So it's very important. So we hold the value of a sled is in the runner.
La technologie des skis.
So we try to take the ski technology and to put it into your runner. So it is the structure of a runner, this one, for example. We are not going into the details, but you have wood here. The wood is only to keep the screw for the stanchion, because it's impossible to screw anything in the polyurethane. Yeah, in the foam. So we need 2 slices of wood in order to keep the screws. But all the other things are Kevlar fiber, carbon fiber, fiberglass, polyethylene, which is the side and the sole, and we can change the force you need. You know, it's quite different for bending the spatula. You can go quite. Then you have on the heel and even on the center part. It's quite stiff in the middle. So you play on the fiber here, and you have like that different stiffness on all along the ski. We find something else.
Après avoir étudié les principes de glisse, on se dit que les 4/5e de la valeur technique d'un traîneau sont dans les patins, et le dessus c'est de la décoration.
Okay,
Il faut que ça donne...
90% of the value of the sled is in the runner.
Et il y a aussi un principe, le principe en plus du ski, qui est la traction, qui engendre une déformation.
We found out that the pulling of a dog is changing is loading differently the runner. Let's see okay. So you know, with this new 2 claws brake, the brake with 2 claws, not the central pedal, the 2 claws, you have the bridle are starting from the brake, so very low on the runner. So in that case, if you are a very low where the bridle are starting very low on the runner, and if you pull, if your dog pulls, then you know a part of the weight is going down, is going backward, and it's bending the runner like that.
Et la glisse chute à un moment donné où c'est que c'est l'accélération et c'est le moment où les chaînes ont plus de force.
You have a high pressure on the rear part of your runner, and it was not good for Daniel. So he finds something. It's why you can see on the extra pole slab something like that. Tiens, fais-le parce que si je réussis pas, je vais voir. And And like that, you know, the runner is flat, and you don't have this backward effect on the runner.
Starting line.
It's the reason why you have the upper bridle over the back.
That upper bridle
Yeah.
keeps the sled from rearing up, like when you go at the starting line and the front of your sled comes rearing up.
So
If you have that upper attachment point, it makes
from
the...
2 points?
Yeah.
Yes.
Et on est obligé d'accrocher là pour appliquer le devant des skis par terre, pour appliquer ce principe de la taille de guêpe.
Yeah, because we must have the front part of the runner on the snow if we want the wasted work.
Yeah, this effect you can really easily see if you watch some videos from the start of the races, because it's very exaggerated at the start. But during, especially the corners, in the corners where those forces get bigger and bigger, it said you really need the front of the runners to have some pressure in order to apply the wasp waist principle. Otherwise, you may very well have the wasp waist runners. If you don't have any pressure on the front, it's useless. You're back to the old style. So it's very important to keep this pressure equal, whatever the situation is.
It's the reason why we also don't like the musher, which are completely behind the handlebar and all the weight on the rear part of the runner.
Et
We prefer the musher completely down on the handlebar towards to have the weight in the middle of the runner. Not like that with aerodynamics, because of I don't know the word, it's aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
Il y a les mêmes différences.
voilà,
You know, at 20 miles per hour, it's not a big deal to play with aerodynamic things.
Non, pas l'accélération, mais c'est la glisse.
Don't be behind your handlebar
Good dancing.
and try to put your weight in the middle of the runner. It's very important. So it's the reason why you see this French bridle up to the next couple sled and some else sled. T'as d'autres choses?
Je disais que quand le patin se cambre, on en revient aux chiffres qu'on avait dit tout à l'heure d'un mauvais patin qui remonte à l'arrière. On avait un besoin de traction de 1,7 livres ou de 23 livres.
Yeah.
Toujours ce principe d'avoir le...
When your sled is in this position, we come back to 23 pounds to keep the move instead of 2 pounds if you are flat. So it's the reason why now you can find on the picture more global attitude on the sled. You know, it's a curve, quite sharp curve here. My weight, I pile off the curve with my outside leg, little bit inside like a motorbike in the curve, but it's more a single thing rather than somebody like that with the sled on the inside, and we can play this little.
Là par exemple, là, à peu près 50 cm de long. C'est un demi-patin.
It's not the same. I don't know if you can see now. It's okay.
Parce que l'une après l'autre.
Ouais.
No, it's quite different.
It's very different.
Par exemple, là, on suppose que l'autre patin, il accroche que depuis la moitié du patin, le patin qu'on voit pas, depuis la moitié jusqu'à l'arrière pour accrocher dans le virage.
In this figure, the inside runner is only touching the snow with the rear part, like that. On this part, the outside runner is completely in the air, so the pressure on this edge is very, very, very high.
Tandis que si on...
And it's side sliding, and it's only a 4-dog team, and it's Greenlander.
Et si on a...
And it's in the years 80.
1980.
80? No, 79, so 81. 1980. Okay? So, if you find the sled a little bit extreme, you can see, you know, in Europe, some guys are playing in their garage with some foam, with some carbon fiber, and they come on the race with things like that. And it's only Masha who make this work in their garage, you know, with their small tool, electric tool, cordless tool, so on, and they come on the race with that. So it's a little bit extreme, I think, and it's all in carbon fiber. It sticks like hell. We succeed in driving this sled, in cutting all the horizontal things and putting rubber in it because it was so stiff, impossible to drive.
C'est 3 livres pour la structure.
It's only 3 pounds for all the three.
Mais c'est juste pour le délire.
It's just a thinking like that, you know, it's quite
Pour tester des technologies.
prototype. I think with our trail in Europe and with our
On arrive à exactement la même traction sans changer la vitesse en restant sur du plat, la même traction qu'en virage. Elle augmente pas qu'en ligne droite. Ouais.
So
if you are good enough, you have the same value of
less than 2 pounds.
If you stay on the ideal trajectory behind the snow machine.
Instead of 500.
Yeah. And we make the exercise with your sled on the lake behind Jack and Magali. And sometimes we were completely outside and we pulled the back end of the snow machine completely outside of the curve. And sometimes we were completely inside of the snow machine trajectory.
With the sled.
With your sled.
This is we're saying there's a lake behind Jacques and Magali's that has a very
few snow and
tight
ice.
turn. It's very difficult to go around on any sled, including the snow machine. And he said the snow machine, it's so tight the snow machine was sliding and the sled was tracking on the inside of the curve. It tracked so well.
Des fois pour m'amuser, j'ai un téléski à côté de chez moi et j'y vais en ski, je vais en traîneau faire du ski pour m'amuser, juste pour plaisir, pour faire du slalom sans chien, c'est possible aussi.
When he has enough work, there is a small ski lift just behind the workshop. He takes a sled, he takes the ski lift, and he do downhill ski with the sled to take a little bit. So another thing, so it's not a wasp waisted runner, and it's quite difficult to build and quite expensive to build because it's small series, you know, it's very small number. So the idea was to put the shape into the sole and into the plastic. And it's the reason why the extra pole plastic are wider on the spatula, narrow in the middle, and wider at the heel. But this kind of plastic can work only with sled with a very good lateral flexibility. You must be able to catch the edge on both runners in order to have the wasp waist effect. Yeah?
About people kick a sled.
Yeah?
So what are your feelings about that? The sense of it, or
When kicking, when pedaling, you mean?
With pedals.
Yeah. Quand on pédale?
Quand on pédale, ça garde mieux un patin cambré, garde mieux la direction qu'un patin.
So it's true what? It's true when you're pedaling all your weight. You know, when you the beginners have often the problem to try to pedal in keeping their weight between the two runners. So it's like that. We grasp the angle, we lift up the foot, and it's very short pedaling movement like that. If you want to pedal smoothly, you have to put your hip here. You take it by the handle and you put it on the sled, on the runner which stay on the snow, and then you can pedal with your legs without any problem because you stay like that on only one leg. So that is true that if you hold your weight on only one runner, it can take this shape a little bit.
you need to have your camera for that.
So It's quite stiff, you know, and quand on se met tout poids sur un traîneau, il se met pas en barrique, il se met...
Si proportionnellement il s'y met un petit peu moins que presque tous les autres patins
You
parce
have
qu'ils
a
sont plus
little bit
rigides
of
au milieu.
barrel shape on the runner, but not so much that if you have an uncambered runner.
So would you be better off just to ride the sled balance in the center, or would you be better to pedal?
Will the pedaling help, or will the act of unbalancing the
Depending the way you are
runners?
pedaling, you
It
know.
depends on how good you are.
Yeah.
You need to be very good at pedaling on this sled.
You know, most part of a musher, beginner's musher, it's better if they don't pedal, but if they pedal, because...
Now they say the pulling is like it comes to about 1.7 pounds for the dogs to pull to get you going. And once you go, that's even going to be less yet. The
No,
faster you
it's 1.7.
Once you
To keep the movement.
You're going.
To keep the movement.
But once you're going, that's even far less yet.
No.
No, 1.7 is
Once you're
going
going.
once you're going. 23 to get it started.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
they said back
Okay,
then.
but if you have a large amount of dogs and you ride an open team, I mean, it's hard nothing for the dogs to pull you, to say, in a way. So
On the
you
flat
can try
trail,
to pump it faster and go trying to have the sled outrun the dogs. But if there is no pull for the dogs on you already to start with, what would be the gain to pump them in a way for this kind of type of sled then?
Well, you're only pumping at the places where that,
Makes sense.
when you're going uphill, and uphill, even on this run,
You
the pull is
remember
much
that
greater.
the few pounds we speak about is only on ideal condition, that is to say flat trail, hard snow, without snow in any way, and the speed is always the same. If you have to change speed, accelerated and so on, you have to apply more strength.
Je pense qu'avec un traîneau qui glisse bien, il faut gérer son pédalage. Moi je suis un peu étonné quand je vois des attelages en ouvert. Sitôt la ligne de départ franchie, le mec qui se met à pédaler, ça sert à rien pour moi à ce moment-là. Et il faut plutôt s'économiser, penser au parcours de la piste et que M. Cher économise sa force pour donner tout ce qu'il a dans les montées ou sur la fin du parcours où les chiens ont un peu moins la patate.
With a good wax and a good sled, a good gliding machine, you have to think about, shall I pedal or shall I stay well on my both runner in order to keep the sliding quality of the sled? Because if you pedal and you are in good gliding condition with good wax, it doesn't make sense to pedal because you had some strange force and so on. It's like going like that. The tug line is like that, and so perhaps you had better to fine tune your position on the sled, to take your weight, to have your weight in the middle of the runner, on both runner, in order to take advantage of the gliding quality of your sled.
On peut dire.
It's the same issue with the flat runners too, though. I mean, whether you're going to gain anything by pedaling or not, because same issues go into it. And on a flat runner, when you switch to one runner pedal, you're double loading that runner just like you're overloading the camber on this. You're still double loading that runner, and you're going to make it even more of a barrel shape than if you stand on both. So you decrease the efficiency of the flat runner also, just like you're going to decrease the efficiency of this.
But it makes good show for the crowd to watch. Show your picture
But you know,
in France.
yes, it's the same car in car racing. A car which is side sliding in a curve is not
like
the
that picture you had.
fastest.
The crowd loves to see that.
It's good for the spectators, but it's not good for the result and the performance.
But we raced at Nancy Lake last year when we had no snow, and they put the trail in at the edge of the lake. And so it was, if you think about the edge of the lake, it was 180-degree turns. I mean, no normal sled dog person would ever go on such a trail. And it was all with head-on passing. And I think Jacques was the only person on that trail that was in control on all of those corners, because you could steer
I could
around.
stay right behind the dog. so
And
it's
Jacques
not
was
sliding
always
at all.
on the right side of the trail, at the side of the trail. And all of the other teams we passed, it wasn't because they were bad mushers, but there was this slipping and sliding, and I mean, you were scared to death that you were going to crash.
So how do you decide how wide to make the runner? Compared to
The runner is the standard weight for the runner, that is to say 38 millimeter.
1.5.
But
So-
we are, yes, but which the important thing is the weight for the plastic, and we are still searching on that, and
like on a downhill ski, the ones where they race?
it depends on the kind of the ski you have.
Right.
If it's downhill ski, speed ski,
The wide.
it's calculated for wide curves, and if it's a slalom ski, it's calculated for very sharp turns. So the slalom ski are very narrow in the middle, quite soft in the middle in order to have the bending effect and sharp turns, and downhill ski are wider in the middle and perhaps a little bit softer because you go faster, so the energy and the strength is more important. For the moment, we choose the plastic values that work for the moment, but we are on the way to fine tune the values. The effect with the plastic is it's the angle at the spatula and the heel is very, you have to have it sharp and to sharpen it, you know.
I'm correct, and the wasting is all in the plastic, not...
No, for the moment the waste is on the plastic because it costs so much to have, you know, it's totally made by hand, piece after you glue and so on, and it's very expensive for a short series to have a wasted runner by itself, but
Someday when we're up in the
I
Peace
think
Corps.
so.
Now, you said it was, you wanted half of the weight on each ski, on each runner.
Yeah.
Half of the musher's weight.
Yeah.
How do you set it up for different weights, mushers are different weights?
The extra pole sled, if you order them, ouais, vas-y,
Il fait des modifications pour les différents poids de machin dans la structure du patin.
On a 3 gammes de poids.
There are 3 different grades of weight.
Et les 2 premières, on joue sur le cambre.
So the first 2 they play on the camber itself.
Et la 3e, on rajoute de la fibre
And
différente.
the first one, the heavier one yet, they put even more fiber. So it's not only the shape that's different, the amount of fiber, and the fiber is acting like a string that limits the deformation. And the number of layers of fiber is different. They add some.
Pour les 2 premières catégories, on fait comme dans les fabriques de ski. Ils sont tous collés la même chose et à la sortie, ils ont des mémoires et des nervosités différentes et on les marie à ce moment-là. C'est comme dans les skis, ça s'appelle
And
comme
you
ça
need to
aussi.
buy when you order your sled, you tell them what you weigh.
Yes, it's the reason why they were asking for your weight when you order sled.
Yep, that's exactly right, Jerry. Make him buy yours first.
Or you need to sled or you make compromise.
I could use his sled, but essentially he couldn't use mine.
Jerry, there's
Well,
another
no,
way. You both achieve the same weight, and you can figure out how to do
You take one runner for one and the other runner for the other.
I could use his sled though.
Well, it can go either way. If you use his sled,
It was no problem.
You won't break it or anything, but it won't be as easy to drive as if it was made for
Fit
you.
for your weight.
See?
Are you having a 2-for-1 sale?
Parce que t'en fais des prix pour les familles.
Comme ils se font pas du tout le même poids les deux, si tu en vends 2 pour les pour les gens qui
Non, il faut changer de mari.
Ouais, c'est ça, you can also get a different husband.
What about you have 3, what about the middle one? Is that a better compromise?
Mais est-ce que celui du milieu est un compromis pour quand il y a des grosses différences de poids comme ça?
Si, ça peut.
Est-ce qu'il vaut mieux prendre pour le plus lourd, pour le plus léger ou celui du milieu par exemple?
Je prendrais pour celui du milieu. On a une... Merde, une femme, ça fait...
50 kilos.
Un couple qui est venu acheter un traîneau et la femme pesait moins de la moitié du mari.
They have the case already when a couple of people bought a sled and the woman weighed less than half of what the husband weighed.
Et nous avons pris le
And
compromis.
they took the middle point.
Et
Ils n'ont pas cassé.
non.
And it's not a matter of breaking it because it's very strong.
I'm talking about efficiency.
Yeah.
Yes, efficiency.
Si j'étais fabricant de ski, j'aurais comme tous les autres modèles de ski, les autres fabricants pour comparer. Le problème, c'est qu'on extrapole les sols à fabriquer des patins où on calcule le poids de la nervosité. Donc, mes calculs, notre idée, c'est juste mes calculs, et peut-être que j'ai complètement faux. Si j'étais fabricant de ski, je me baserais sur les autres fabricants de ski.
It's really hard for him to be very precise too, because he's the only one so far that's doing this, making particular adjustments for different weights. And if it was a ski company, he could compare it to the competition and see what they do and the results and so on. But since he's been the only one to do the research, he thinks it's right what he is doing, but it's not a perfect science.
Well, for a free sled, get an idea. You use a spring, where you stand for a black woman, you can put a spring on it, you can adjust the strength of the spring to the counterweight for the husband's weight. So once you lightweight a person on the spring ready push it down, you meet up the
Il dit
husband's
de
weight.
rajouter des ressorts.
Il y a un système Kneissel, une marque, c'est connu ici, je sais pas, une marque de ski qui a un système comme ça. Mais c'est
There's a brand of skis that have this system, but it creates some other problems.
Well, anyway, technically on this kind of sled, now some trails you're like angled down like this,
Yeah.
you run on it, and your sled keeps sliding
You don't-
down, keeps sliding, and you fight. This will travel pretty nice, and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
actually the weight goes uneven down, and it probably travels.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. In the Algarad, we had that kind of trail a lot of side hills, and that's one of the most important factors that I liked. That kind of runners is that you could, and also it's the whole conception of the sled. That it won't work to have that kind of runner if the whole sled is not flexible enough that you can make it get the angle. But the side hill is one of the most important place. Right?
We missed the first part, but I presume that the plastic is available separate from the skis, and you also sell plastic?
Tu fournis les
plastiques
catopes séparément.
Oui.
Yeah.
Mais pour monter des catopes sur des patins qui n'ont pas l'équilibre pour aller avec, peut-être c'est pas bien. C'est un ensemble, l'équilibre, la nervosité des patins pour aller avec le catop. C'est peut-être pas un avantage si tu as pas un traîneau avec des patins.
You may not gain anything by it though. You said because the K-top system is done the calculations and the experiments to fit the nervosity of the sled, where the most flexible parts are and the stiffer parts. And he tried many different positions how to shape the plastic. And if you put it on a different sled or a different runner, or even if you put it on a stiff, a runner with a continuous structure like aluminum runner, for instance, it's got the same properties from the beginning to the end, and that may not work.
No, I wasn't asking if you sell another runner.
Yeah.
When you buy one of these sleds, you can get replacement plastic.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Are you competitive price-wise for the plastic, or is it?
Depends what kind of. We can talk a little bit about the plastic because he's very advanced as far as researching for plastic, and I can ask him about prices. I'm not sure, but il demande si quand tu achètes les plastiques de remplacement, c'est comparable en prix avec les autres plastiques. Bon, c'est principalement Team White. Et j'ai demandé si tu pouvais parler un petit peu justement des plastiques parce que tu as pas mal étudié.
D'accord, nous on a les plastiques bleus, c'est une formule chimique qu'on a achetée à Dynamique C'est une marque de ski, je ne sais pas si c'est connu ici. Et on a qui est similaire au noir de Team White, à peu près, sauf qu'il a des adjuvants de glisse.
Yeah, just he's talking about the plastics, and I will ask him again about the prices after. But they have bought plastic kind of patent from Dynamic. It's a ski brand. That's the blue plastic that they have, which is about equivalent to the black plastic from Team White. Et c'est bon pour la chaleur.
Et c'était développé spécialement pour les neiges, principalement pour les neiges chaudes.
And it's been developed mostly for warm, fairly warm snows, warm conditions.
Après, il y a le vert.
Then they have a green plastic, which
qui
is
est similaire au jaune de Team White.
more like yellow Team White
Il n'y a
plastic.
pas d'adjuvant de glisse.
It's harder. There is no sliding compound mixed into the plastic.
Et nous travaillons cette année sur nous suivons l'évolution technologique des plastiques pour les skis et nous allons travailler sur une nouvelle semelle qui est transparente. C'est le top en ski de fond maintenant.
And now this year they are working on what is considered to be the top in cross-country ski for plastic, which is a transparent plastic.
Et aussi nous avons les graphites avec deux qualités de graphite.
And also the graphite plastics, which you had already, but now they have kind of fine-tuned it, and they came up with two kinds of graphite plastics. One for the cold snow, and one for the warm snow.
Et le problème, ça, c'est des plastiques dits de haute technologie qui sont quand même plus chers que les
and
plastiques.
These are more
White.
expensive. To come back to the price, the set of yellow, green, but also the big difference between those normal kinds of plastic, the blue and the green, are like Team White plastic. You know, it's a full piece of plastic that you cut the rail into, not the rail shape, you know, and to slide it. The others are a compound. Actually, the graphite or the transparent part is very expensive, and you don't even find it in a thick enough plastic that you could cut through it, and you really wouldn't take such expensive plastic to make a groove in it just to slide it. So what they do is they glue this very thin layer of plastic on top of a regular polyethylene plastic, which, you know, is a little more labor, but, you know, it saves at the end some of the price. And
c'est quoi le prix? Le prix, c'est quoi? Le price?
Je sais pas, ici il faut venir au stand.
If I'm mistaken, you know, so far the graphite, for instance, which is the top of the line, was around like $80
Graphite est très cher.
per set, but it's very expensive because the graphite is very
it's $30 for the blue one. Yeah, I think it's $30 for the blue one or green one.
Yeah, the others are
Graphite,
$30, so it's pretty comparable to.
C'est très cher et on peut pas l'acheter en épaisseur comme
Ouais,
ça.
j'ai vu ça.
On achète, il faut coller.
Yeah.
Mais une paire de graphite dure plusieurs saisons.
Now the difference between the graphite, we've had one set here for the last 2 years. We kept it for 2 full seasons. Spring racing mostly, but because, you know, the Alpirod, we were going every day. There was not one day where we were not driving on gravel in the Alpirod, and I managed to go through usually 2 sets for the whole race. But from here, for the trails in Fairbanks area, 2 years, you know.
Et la meilleure paire de semelles, d'après nous, c'est pas une paire de semelles qui est toute neuve. C'est une paire de semelles où vous avez déjà mis du. En Europe, on dit comme ça.
There's a big advantage to that.
Du travail.
For him and for most skiers, a good pair of plastic is not a new one. A new pair of plastic is always very bad because the wax takes a long, long time to penetrate into the plastic, and you wax it every time you run it. It will take a lot of times, and after maybe 1 year, that's why it's good to keep the plastic longer if you can, if it's not worn out completely. And that's.
And you have to wax your plastic at the end of the season and keep them wax all the
Au début
summer
aussi,
season.
tu as dit un sorte, just a little few words on waxing, because they are quite advanced on waxing too. They recommend that you wax, when you get new plastic, you wax it with a warm weather wax. Don't use a cold weather wax at the beginning, because the warm weather wax is a lot more fluid and it will penetrate, it will feed.
Warm weather is 32 degrees.
32 melting point.
Yeah, melt to melting.
It will melt easy and it will get very fluid, so it will feed the sole, the plastic, a lot at the beginning. And Thierry said also, at the end of the season, when you are going to store your sled and your plastic, you should wax it again. With a soft or with
soft?
Again with a soft wax before storing it. Pourquoi ça?
In order for the wax to penetrate into the runner and the plastic, and to prevent from grease and things like that.
Il y a des skieurs, les skieurs de fond des fois préparent leur paire, ils fartent et défartent 6 fois pour bien...
Pour une seule course?
Non, pour une paire de...
Oh, for a new one. Okay, yeah. He said lots of cross-country skiers, when they get a new pair of skis, they wax and unwax it 6 times before they ever use it.
Before they ski on the ski.
Now, something I wanted to add as far as that kind of runner, that I felt also a big difference is whenever you get on a bumpy trail. This really acts as a suspension. And I don't know if you ever drove a car with no suspension and then go to a car with suspension. That's about the same effect from running a stiff runner and running a runner that has a life. You know, it's reacting different in the middle than in the front. And as far as the comfort of riding a sled, that's...
Icy conditions.
Well, on that icy conditions...
Same as everything, you're just out of control.
No, well, it depends what you call... Yeah, if you go on glare ice, nothing is going to hold. I mean,
you need iron edge.
No, you need studs. No, that's something else that... something else that's not been spoken of here, but which we come to the track, the snowmobile track on a sled, the mat, and if you go on glare ice, the only thing that's going to keep you from sliding is to put some carbide stud in your track and apply it on the ice, and that will keep you from sliding. It will also slow you down, of course, but I don't know of much anything else that's going to keep you from sliding on glare ice. But if you're talking of icy trail, icy hard pack trail, we're back to the conditions of Nancy Lake Trail last year. I think these kind of runners with the waste plastic makes a difference.
Fartage et aussi le rainurage,
something else.
Smell.
Daniel wanted to mention the waxing is important, but also the structuring and the grooving.
What? Railing
of the plastic is very important, and I don't know if Thierry can make some theoretical points about that. Okay. Probably.
If you take 2 pieces of glass and you put it in the water and you put the 2 pieces of glass like that, they will stick. If you scrap or you will 1 piece of scrap of glass, you put it in the water, you try to stick them, one is going to fall. Because the water from the plastic, the water and humidity contained in the snow is playing a suction effect. And if you have much humidity on the snow, it's not the case here, I know. Wet snow, the suction effect is very big. So you have to put, and even in quite dry snow, you have a little bit humidity. I don't know here, I don't think so.
Minus 20, minus 30.
Yeah. And a little bit, I think so. And you know, the runner is on the snow, it creates frottement, I don't know the word, it's
surface friction.
Surface friction. Surface friction is creating heat, and heat is creating, melting a little bit the branch of the snowflake, and it's a little bit water on the runner. So you have to put this water out. And the way you put this water hard, for the moment, it's parallel structuring of the plastic with a special tool. And more you have humidity in the snow, more important are the structuring, more big is the structure. For the moment, it's parallel structuring from the spatula to the heel, but the research in alpine ski, downhill ski, and in cross-country ski is beginning to be quite more hard to have on the sled, but we have to think about it. I think starting the middle of a ski, they have V-shaped structuring like that, and in order to put the water out, like a tire. Yeah. But for the moment, if you have a parallel and straight structuring, it's a good thing.
Je pense que d'ici 3-4 ans en Europe, dans les magasins de location de ski, les gens ne loueront plus des skis qui sont tout plats, ils seront structurés chaque jour pour la location. Les gens vont vers ça.
Daniel is believing that in the short term, the ski you are going to buy in the ski shop is going to be structured out of the manufacturer, out of the.
C'est très rapide ces 2-3 dernières années, l'évolution de la structure.
Big evolution with 2 or 3 years. I think it's important. I think Terry Killam asked me about waxing because I think the knowledge is quite low in the US. So I think at a future symposium it's a point we can address about waxing with demonstration tool and so on, and explanation. I think it's also one of the added value we can bring you from Europe.
Puisqu'on parle de la glisse, il y a aussi nos patins sont assez souples et ils vibrent beaucoup. Je ne sais pas si vous avez déjà vu les skis de descente. Ça vibre toujours et la surface de la neige qui supporte le ski, c'est toujours des cristaux. C'est pas une surface plate comme ça. Et le fait des vibrations met tous les cristaux à plat ou aide à les mettre beaucoup à plat. Et ça fait une surface. Tous les cristaux présentent leur surface plate sous le ski pour la suite du ski. Et c'est que ça, quand on se retourne dans la trace, on voit des trucs qui brillent, c'est que presque toutes les surfaces plates, les cristaux de neige ont été mis à l'horizontale. C'est ça qu'on...
Yeah. The crystals, when you go over the snow, are not aligned. They're all crooked like this. And one of the advantages of a flexible runner is that it vibrates. There's a very rapid vibration, and that basically flattens out the crystals and aligns them, and by the time the rear part of your sled goes over, the snow is flatter than when you first got to it, and enough so that if you look behind the runner, that's why you see shiny snow behind you.
And about the comfort of driving, Jack mentioned a little bit early, and you will notice that this comfort is given because we completely freed the spatula on the sled. You don't have anymore this huge crossbar in front, just behind the push bow, and you will see some omega shape between the basket and the runner, and this omega shape can play like that. And it was incredible when we made the test on the road up there with behind the snow machine. On very hard snow, it was always playing like that, because the spatula of the runner is not completely blocked with a screw and a nut and all on a heavy crossbar. I think it's a very important thing for the comfort and for the gliding quality of the sled. To let the front hand vibrating and follow the tip.
Jacques, it's my understanding that the tin white plastic is not porous enough to absorb wax. A, is that true? And B,
It's not what?
It's not good for absorbing wax.
It depends which ones. I believe the orange plastic from Tim is really soaking wax fairly good, but it also has some other problems. It's fairly soft and gets damage.
On peut dire
Not
que
easy, so
la
and
semelle
it's
idéale
not
n'existe
in
pas.
certain
C'est
conditions
toujours
that
des
just
compromis
like
entre la
very well,
dureté ou l'absorption.
This is
Well-
different kind of plastic.
Huh?
This is different plastic on those runners.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah, but see, out of those plastic, the ones that are really the best as far as soaking
Une
wax,
structure de
absorbing wax,
polyéthylène
are
avec
the
les
ones
trous, avec
that
la
have
couche de
been
wax
specifically
ici,
designed
pour
for,
l'éviter.
recently for,
Une structure de polyéthylène,
the
tu
best
sais,
veux
avec
chaînes
les trous.
moléculaires?
the
Non, non, non.
graphite plastic and this
C'est
new
comme
one,
ça,
I
avec
don't
des
know,
trous,
I've
hein.
seen it yet,
Ouais,
I've never
d'accord.
used it. But I know
Puis moi, je
if you
t'apprends
wax
plus de
the graphite plastics and you wax either Tim's plastic or this other plastic he has, you can feel the difference. You can feel the wax going into the graphite plastic. And when you scrape your wax, you can really feel that there's not a surface of wax on top. It's built inside your plastic after. And those other ones, all those full size QCR, it's really hard to get that quality of plastic because it's just too expensive. So.
Et la qualité, le plastique génial n'existe pas. C'est toujours un compromis entre la dureté. Par exemple, les platins, les semelles très dures n'absorbent pas le fart. Dans les semelles très douces, relativement douces, on a mesuré du fart jusqu'à 0,7 mm de profondeur. Et plus le fart est dur, moins il absorbe le fart et moins il peut en donner au long de la piste.
It's always a compromise between the hardness, how hard the plastic is, and the way it's going to take wax. So it's kind of a compromise. The best waxes to soak plastic are also the softest.
Ouais, c'est ça.
So you have to find a right compromise depending on the conditions.
Chuck, how fragile is this expensive?
Well, the graphite, I was amazed especially for that because that graphite plastic that we have used before, which is going to be probably a little different from the one he's going to have this year. But like I said, I could drive on roads on the Alpine road, and it was just at least as hard as the yellow plastic from Team White, which is the hardest one. I could keep it, 3-4 days driving on a gravel road every day.
Do you dare to scrape it very much?
Oh, you have to. There's no, except, in Fairbanks it's a little different, but you do need to scrape it to get the wax out. But if you go on a gravel road, for instance, you'll want to scrape it a lot. And it's hard enough that you have to scrape it pretty hard before you can remove a decent thickness so that you get it smooth again.
The blue and green you have now are pretty durable.
The blue is really not recommended for here because the blue. It's mostly for warmer conditions.
À moi qui cause en français.
Non mais par là.
Tu peux, c'est le meilleur support de fart, je pense qu'on peut trouver maintenant.
Now the blue, you said the blue is very good for soaking wax. It's very good. But if you are expert in waxing.
Il y a aussi un truc qui est très différent par rapport au ski, c'est l'urine des chiens qui est un super diluant de paraffine. Quand on a mesuré après tant X kilomètres sur une piste de ski ou sur une piste de chien, il y a beaucoup moins de wax qui reste dans la piste de chien. Et là, il y a les farts au fluocarbure qui accrochent beaucoup mieux. Se diriger plutôt avec des farts au fluocarbure qu'à la paraffine traditionnelle.
They said they made some measurements on a dog trail and a cross-country ski trail. On dog trails, they found traces of dog urine. They said the urine acts as a diluent, dilutes the wax, the paraffin. So the paraffin was, when they measured how much was left, there was less on a dog trail. So he said if you use fluoride and carbide-based wax, it does stay a lot longer with the urine. So for dog machines, that would be more recommended.
Et Sphinx, Serra.
Yeah, like here, for instance, there's one kind that's based fluoride. It's called Swix, Serra, Polar Extreme or Extreme Cold. They changed it last year, but it's a Swix, and you can find it at Beaver's Sport. And it's a CERA series, and this is fluoride based.
So about waxing, when you wax your plastic, you don't glide on the wax once you are racing. The plastic is like that with small hole in the plastic, in the polyethylene. Then you take a hot iron, hot iron. We say your wax must not boil or smoke. It's the criteria. So you have a quite thick, a big thickness of wax on your plastic, and then you scrap it and you remove almost 99% of this slice. And then, in fact, you are gliding on the plastic impregnated with wax and not on the wax slab. It's very important because a snowflake, it's the word for flocon neige, flake? A snowflake, on cold weather especially, a small flake has very sharp hand like that. And if you have a quite thick wax slice like that, this arrow, this point are going to stick and to grab into the wax, the wax, and it has a breaking effect. You know, all the small flake here with the little arm. So, cold temperature wax is stiffen, get the plastic stiffer, you know. So like that, the little point of the snowflake are not digging into the plastic. Is the reason why it is sliding much more.
So on the design of the skis, they have a groove in the middle of them? What's the purpose?
Il y a une rainure au milieu du ski alpin, ça sert à quoi?
C'est pour avoir un effet directionnel. Et maintenant, les nouveaux skis ont tendance à plus avoir.
It's mostly for direction. But they said most newer skis don't have it anymore.
If you see modern skis, they don't have the groove in the middle.
So it's strictly to keep it to track straight?
Yeah.
Mostly, and then maybe also for the water escaping. I don't know. No, it's not for the water. It's for keeping a stability because it's quite wide, you know. So it's floating a little bit, and the trend is to have shorter skis. So the ability to keep the track straight is less important if you have shorter ski than longer ski. So the groove, the central groove, was maintaining the ski in the right direction while you ski straight. But on modern ski, if you go now on a ski shop, you will find all the ski completely straight without groove. Why is it because they're railing the skis now?
I don't know.
Pourquoi on trouve plus?
C'est parce que je sais pas forcément, mais je suppose qu'ils se sont aperçus que ça ne servait à rien. C'était avant aussi, il y avait cette ligne quand il n'y avait pas l'écart métallique. Et les fabricants ont continué à utiliser la même technique.
Said he thinks probably originally there was no metal edges on the skis a long time ago, and they put this groove in the middle because they didn't have the effects of, because the metallic edges kind of stick a little bit and give that steering, that direction effect. And he said probably the manufacturers did traditionally have that groove and they kept on having it without even knowing exactly why. But then they realized there was no use for it and they took it out. But it's not sure.
Maintenant, ils font des fois des skis avec deux. Il y a quelques skis qui ont deux petites ici.
Certain skis have two little grooves also, one on each side.
Mais dans les skis de haut de gamme, il n'y a plus.
But in the top level skis, there's none.
Et on fait des structures dessus, des rainures.
And they use railing, which has to some extent that same effect. I think in a sled you can, when you rail your runners, especially at the beginning of the run, in a mid-distance race for instance, you can feel the effect of the railing. And the more you use it, you know, the effect goes away because it wears out. But at the beginning, especially if you're on a hard trail, icy hard, you can feel the directional effect of it.
Probably ought to let these guys finish up. They have.
No more questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you also.
Merci.
But they needed to plan last night what they
Donc on passe un peu sur le partage l'année prochaine si on doit, avec les outils, les fonds et tout.
Well, I said this for years, somebody should design a sled like this. Good way. What's it trap? Do you have dogs?
It's a small kennel.
That's all right. Merci.
It's a wonderful
Good boy. Yes.
Wow.
So are there lots of people thinking about sled design?
We have some other ideas.
It's a very much important skill for 5 months, and but the new thing is that it makes a difference in the way the technology works. If you are going to go on the you will see a difference. Everybody wants to be accurate. Look at different and where are they worn out? So we have to fine tune now the measurement of the width of the width. But this trying to line is the plastic round is the same, you know, the same on the way. Yeah, we need to work that because but we have to taste it because we don't know anything at all. We don't know background.